Something about that final morning on Good Morning Britain felt heavier than usual, right from the first few minutes. You could sense it in the studio air, that quiet shift when everyone knows a chapter is closing, even if the cameras keep rolling and the show must go on. Ben Shephard, the man who'd been waking up the nation alongside his colleagues for a decade, was saying goodbye. Not in anger or drama, but with the kind of genuine emotion that television rarely captures so rawly. And viewers at home? Many were left absolutely gutted. It wasn't just another presenter moving slots. For so many loyal GMB fans, Ben had become part of their morning routine, that steady, warm presence who could handle breaking news, share a laugh, or sit compassionately with guests through the toughest stories. 10 years on the sofa, building real connections with co-hosts like Kate Garraway, who's been called his on-screen wife for nearly 2 decades. When Kate kicked things off that day, admitting she was already emotional before 6 o'clock had properly struck, you could feel the weight in her voice. It set the tone for everything that followed. What made it hit harder was how understated yet deeply felt it all seemed. Ben wasn't grandstanding, he was fighting to hold it together, repeatedly saying he was trying to keep his emotions in check because there were still 3 hours of live television to deliver. You could see it in the pauses, those little moments where his usual easy charm gave way to something more vulnerable. The way his eyes would glisten just a fraction before he'd pull back with a professional smile. It almost seemed as though the full reality of leaving this family behind was sinking in live on air, and audiences picked up on every subtle cue. Many viewers noticed how the tributes poured in early. Video messages from colleagues who couldn't be there in the studio, heartfelt words from people like Laura Tobin and Dr. Hilary Jones. Even football legends from Ben's beloved West Ham, like Mark Noble and Carlton Cole, sent personal goodbyes. Noble's message carried extra weight, referencing how Ben had been there for his own farewell as a player. There's something profoundly human about those crossovers between sport and television, that shared understanding of endings after long runs. Fans online couldn't stop talking about how moved Ben looked, how it humanized him even more. Kate Garraway's presence throughout the show added layers of poignancy. Their chemistry had always been one of GMB's quiet strengths, comfortable, supportive, like old friends who could read each other's moods. On this final morning, she spoke openly about the worrisome felt, not because Ben was leaving ITV, but because that daily rhythm they'd built would change. She called him an incredible broadcaster and friend, and you could tell she meant every word. It wasn't scripted sentiment, it was the kind of affection that develops after years of early starts, shared stresses, and genuine care. Some audiences began wondering whether moments like these remind us how much television presenters become part of our extended daily lives, even from a distance. Then there were the colleagues in the studio, Charlotte Hawkins expressing they'd all do their best to hold it together, Andy Peters visibly struggling during segments, Richard Arnold delivering a warm "I love you, mate" with a hug. These weren't polished performances. They were small, authentic reactions that revealed the real bonds behind the glossy set. Viewers online interpreted these exchanges as proof of how tightly knit the GMB team had become. One fan after another posted about feeling gutted, echoing the sense of personal loss. "He's one of my absolute favorites," people wrote. Others admitted setting alarms early just to catch every last moment. What struck many was the psychology behind the reaction. Why did a professional move like this resonate so emotionally with strangers watching at home? Perhaps because Ben represented reliability in an unpredictable world. In an era where television lineups shift constantly, his decade-long tenure felt like stability. The move to This Morning alongside Kat Delay, stepping into a high-profile daytime role after the departures of Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, made perfect sense career-wise. It was a natural progression, offering different hours and new challenges. Yet for loyal morning viewers, it meant adjusting to a different energy on their screens. While nothing has been confirmed about long-term dynamics, the possibility that this change might refresh both shows in positive ways lingered in conversations. Ben's final sign-off captured the essence of why it mattered. He thanked the team behind the cameras, the viewers who trusted him to start their days, and acknowledged how special the whole experience had been. "Thank you for making this so special," he said, his voice carrying that mix of gratitude and reluctance. He joked lightly about getting a line but promised he wasn't going far, just next door, still part of the ITV family. That reassurance seemed to ease some of the sting for fans, yet it didn't erase the melancholy. There's a possibility that many tuned in that morning expecting a standard show, only to find themselves unexpectedly reflective about time passing, routines changing, and people moving on. Looking back, the atmosphere that day felt cinematic in its quiet intensity. The studio lights, the familiar desk, the way colleagues lingered in hugs and shared glances, it all painted a picture of television as more than just entertainment. It's a workplace, a creative space, and for viewers, a comforting window into lives that intersect with our own. Body language told stories words sometimes couldn't. The slight hesitations, the supportive touches on the arm, the way Ben composed himself to deliver the handover. These details casual observers might miss, but they're what made the farewell linger long after the credits rolled. Social media amplified it all, of course. Clips circulated, reactions flooded in. Everything from teary emojis to fond memories of Ben's earlier days on GMTV. People shared how he'd been part of their mornings through life's ups and downs. It highlighted something broader about audience psychology. We form parasocial bonds with these presenters. They become companions during breakfast, voices that accompany us as we get ready for the day. When one steps away, even to something exciting, it can stir unexpected feelings of nostalgia and transition. Many viewers noticed how Ben's genuineness stood out in an industry that can sometimes feel performative. "We need more people like him," one comment captured it perfectly. In the larger landscape of British television, moments like this remind us of the human cost and beauty of these careers. Long hours, public scrutiny, yet the privilege of connecting with millions. Ben's journey from GMTV through a decade at GMB to this morning shows adaptability and growth. It also invites us to think about what we value in our on-screen personalities: warmth, authenticity, that ability to balance levity with depth. While the show goes on with new presenters stepping up, the emotional imprint of Ben's time there feels lasting. Perhaps what stayed with so many wasn't just the speeches or the tributes, but the unspoken sense of gratitude and bittersweet farewell hanging in the studio. The way a simple morning broadcast transformed into something more meaningful, reflecting how life itself is full of endings and new beginnings. Viewers felt it deeply because television, at its best, mirrors our own experiences of change. If you watched that final show, what hit you the most? Was it Kate's early tears, Ben's composure cracking just slightly, one of the video messages, or the overall atmosphere of love and respect? Share your thoughts in the comments. Did you feel that same tug of sadness mixed with excitement for what's next? Maybe you've followed Ben for years and have a favorite memory. These conversations keep the spirit of those mornings alive. And who knows? Perhaps in catching up with him on This Morning, we'll see new sides, new laughs, and that familiar warmth carrying forward. Until then, thanks for joining me in unpacking a moment that reminded us all why these connections matter.